Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Today, we're doing something different, and I want to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, and that is Destiny 2. I've been playing Destiny, the franchise, for a very long time, and it's weird for me to be at a point where I am so tired of the game and yet so hopeful. Um, and I know there's a whole lot of people out there coping about the future of Destiny, and there's a whole lot of people out there who are just completely done with it. And I understand both sides, because part of me really wants to see the game come back. It's a game I've put thousands of hours in. I've done so much in the game, and I'm kind of at a point where there's not much more for me to do, and the game is so big, and yet so much of it is unutilized that it's hard for me not to slip into that doomer camp where I'm just done with it. I want to be done with it. I want the game to just die so I can, you know, wipe my hands and step back and go do something else. But there has yet to be a game out there that has captured my imagination like Destiny. There's yet to be a game that has held me like Destiny has, with its gunplay, with the abilities, with the content, with the story, with everything. I have yet to find another game that comes close. And I've tried a lot of different ones. And the other two that kind of pop up every so often as like people's favorite games of all time, especially recently, is Elden Ring. That's one that I have sunk a fair amount of time into. I've really enjoyed it, completed it, ran it back through, and I love Elden Ring. But it still doesn't quite compare. And then the other one, uh, at least in my circles, that everyone seems to play at some point is Division 2. Because of the gunplay, because it has some content, and it has some interesting features, people seem to drift over to Division 2 at some point. And I played Division 2. I enjoyed it, actually. I enjoyed it quite a lot. But it wasn't the same. And neither of those games have caught me like Destiny has. And I kind of want to break down why. So if you would, join me as I just kind of work through what I want to see in the future. And I was on YouTube the other day and I saw some videos from an individual talking about creating Destiny 3. And he works through this sandbox idea. His channel name is lcv.gaming. Very interesting videos. There is some language, so be warned if you don't prefer language, but nonetheless, he has this crazy idea of creating Destiny 3 kind of on his own. And I think it's awesome. I think it's absolutely awesome to see someone actually create something instead of just complain about stuff, which is why I wanted to create an idea for a Destiny 3 as well. The core things that I want to see, the base for Destiny 3 that I think is required for it to succeed, but also to capture what D1 had, and then the best parts of D2 has currently. So, I'm going to start off, and I have just some bullet points. I don't have everything written out, so I'm not reading from a script, just an outline. But to start with is reasons to play. Now, the most important part of a looter shooter is the loot, right? And that's the reason to play. The first reason to play is meaningful rewards. When you're playing content, you want to be rewarded something that is valuable, that is worthwhile, that you can hold and go, man, this was awesome. I'm so glad I did XYZ piece of content to get this thing. It's like the first time I went and, in Rise of Iron, went through the mission to get Galahorn, and it's a really neat mission because you're creating Galahorn as you're fighting off waves of enemies, and then there's this boss guy that you get Galahorn, you start rocketing at him. And it's so cool, because it's like, man, not only was the mission awesome, but it was worthwhile because I got Galahorn, which I was never lucky enough to get Galahorn before that. I never got the original version. I never had it drop. In fact, my brother had it drop in Prison of Elders, and I was so mad because I got, it was something, it was like Dreg's Promise or something. I don't remember, or something like that. It was just I got something terrible, a terrible exotic, and he got Galahorn, and it I was livid. But regardless, there needs to be a meaningful reward for every piece of content in the game. And when I say pieces of content, I don't mean just the raids, dungeons, grandmasters, portal activities, right? I mean everything in the game needs a meaningful reward for being in it. The worlds need meaningful rewards. And I just want you to stop and think, when was the last time you intentionally went and just wandered around the EDZ? Never. It's it's been years, years and years. There have been no quests tied to the EDZ. There have been no content drops tied to actually being in the EDZ outside of battlegrounds, which you couldn't just wander on into. So you weren't loading into the EDZ to begin with. You were loading into the battlegrounds playlist. And there have been no major reworks for the actual world itself to justify being there. Which is why one of the ideas that I had, every world should have a unique exotic armor and weapon tied to it. So when you load in, right, and this is, say, Destiny 3, right? You load in to Old Chicago, right? Just stay with me. And you're wandering around, and you stumble upon lost sectors. And you go in, and not only do you get something decent to begin with, like you get a purple drop, and it's pretty cool because it's, one of your first purples. You don't really have that many. You don't have that good of stuff anyways. It's base game. You're starting out. But then you get a little item, a void crystal. Then you go and you go find the next lost sector. Now you're on this steamroll of, ooh, what do I get from this one? What do I get? And there's a desire to go explore the world and a reward attributed to exploring that world. Once you've done all the lost sectors, you've collected enough to go unlock a special area or a mission. Once you complete the mission, you get Graviton Lance. Okay. It could be any weapon, but just stick with me. You get Graviton Lance. Now that you have it, to get the catalyst, go and do all the lost sectors, or go and do a specific lost sector on a harder difficulty, or maybe it unlocks a new area that you can go do, or a different mission that with a timer. Something difficult but rewarding again to do to keep you in the world. Now that you have the catalyst, you can upgrade the catalyst, right? It becomes a crafted weapon or something of the sort. Keep unlocking stuff in the world. Keep exploring. Keep collecting items. The Dusklight shards. It shouldn't have just been a random material. It should be used to upgrade the weapon. Now, it shouldn't be an astronomical amount like Raise Lighter or Dark Drinker, one of those swords from D1, but it should be enough to justify, like, ooh, let's go pick up that thing. Whereas right now, all the planetary materials are basically just glimmer sources. That's like 2,000 glimmer, maybe. Or it's only used for, I don't even know actually if there's any recent ones. Oh, in Renegades, it's for credits. Like you can collect them for credits or whatever. They're basically worthless. What's the point of having them there if they're not actually going to give you anything when you collect more credits from just going and getting the chests and completing the content? There needs to be a reason for that stuff to be in the game. Which is why I say, get a weapon tied to the world. You complete activities in the world to upgrade said weapon. You complete special versions of activities or of public events or lost sectors to acquire catalysts and upgrades. And then create a material to allow yourself to upgrade it further, right? Like with the leveling system. You can speed up the leveling process. Instead of just using the weapon a ton, you can speed it up by acquiring the planetary material. Same thing with an armor piece. There should be an armor piece associated with each and every planet, right? Maybe for, say, Old Chicago, it's the Graviton Forfeit, Hunter Helmet, And there should be one for each class. But the Hunter helmet, go do a similar thing, but it's with the public events. Now you go bounce around between public events, and you complete the heroic public events for a better chance of things to drop, or for better drops in general. There needs to be a reason for these things to exist. And I want to do those kind of things. I want there to be a reason to go do world events. Because I think world events are awesome. Stumbling upon a public event back in D1 was so cool. Like, especially when there was a bunch of other people there. And in the same way, early years D2, it was some of the only content that I was doing at the time because I didn't have much time to play. So I just pop in, do a couple public events, and leave. But I never felt rewarded. Granted, public events were somehow still some of the most rewarding in the game, unfortunately, but it wasn't rewarding at all to just get like some tokens and occasionally an armor drop or something. But to get something like that, a quest item or a chance at higher tier gear or a planetary set, we have these planetary sets, but there's no set bonuses, there's no traits, there's nothing to them. Make it usable. Anyways, so meaningful rewards, the rarity of drops should be scaled for the difficulty of content, and this is just a base level no duh kind of thing. When you go and do a raid, you should get a crafted weapon or the ability to craft weapons. I like the red border system in concept, but when I'm hunting for a specific weapon, not being able to get it except once from the final is kind of tough, but it's okay. It gives a reason to replay the content. But I would probably dial it back to 3 red borders instead of 5. But that's just me. And I think tiers should not exist in dungeons and raids. Like, tiers shouldn't exist to begin with. It's stupid. But when you go and do a piece of content, you should be getting decent drops. The fact that you so often get terrible armor drops and garbage rolls on guns shouldn't happen with content you're devoting hours to. Maybe not hours, but a typical raid for a typical group takes about an hour. When you devote that amount of time to not only learn the mechanics, but to do them well and to execute them, you should be getting stuff that's decent. As well as armor and weapons designed for the content it was released in. Now, it used to be like the Last Wish armor set would give you special mods that could be used within the raid. They were taken mods. Same thing, like all of the raids had something like that, but I felt like an origin trait would be even better. An origin trait that buffs your damage against taken, or maybe with some of the newer raids, right? We got the Root of Nightmares stuff. Maybe it just buffs your damage against tormentors or the enemies affected by light and darkness debuffs. Whatever it is, or when you have a light or darkness debuff active or buff active, you should do more damage. Something of the sort. That's just a static effect. It doesn't take up a mod slot. It's just there when you have the armor equipped, right? And this is basically origin traits, but designed for the pieces of content it released in. Let's see, Garden of Salvation. You should take less damage from radial area when you have the set equipped. Then you should have a damage buff when you have 4 pieces and you are affected by radial area. So when you're on final boss, you can stand in the radial area, you take less damage, and you do more damage instead of just the conflux nonsense. Regardless, that should be for every piece of content. Whatever it's released in, it should help you do the content better. Now, lastly, reward challenges and people who complete challenging content. Now, this is not just go do the raid. Low man raids should be rewarded. Solo GMs should be rewarded. Speedruns and flawlesses, solo flawlesses. The fact that I'm seeing people doing solo flawless deepstone is insane. reward them. They should have an armor glow forever on the Deepstone set, just like Trials armor. They should have a cosmetic ornament set for the guns and armor unique to doing that challenge. Every single one of these challenges should be rewarded. When someone completes a speedrun and gets a world record, they should have that tracker saying world record speedrun Deepstone, world record speedrun Root of Nightmares, whatever it is. Any piece of content. All of that stuff is tracked internally. Bungie knows the numbers. It should be tracked and it should be rewarded. Low man raids, they should have a special style of the emblem or a border on the emblem or something to designate. Like if they did a 3-man, they should have a copper border around it. If they did a solo, it should be a gold. If it was a solo flawless, it should be gold and like crimson or something. Like it should be gold and red. There should be something to show off the hard work and the skill these people have. And I think Armor Glows is one of those things that would be really, really cool to see again, especially when, like, if you brought the hard mode armor sets from D1 into D2, or let's say D3. Do new raids, but have a base set and then a secondary set that would glow even brighter or with a special glow if you did one of these challenges, right? Similar to how Vault of Glass was, where you had the base set and then you had a much cooler set. But regardless, I digress. There needs to be rewards for that. Now, moving on. Point number 2, enjoyable content. I enjoy execution-based, challenging content. I love the dungeons. I love especially activities that I can get better at. Spire of the Watcher is actually one of my favorites, not because it's particularly difficult, but because of how much you can speed it up when you learn the mechanics and you learn how to execute them well. I love that it rewards you. The game rewards you for being fast. I love that it rewards you for executing these things well. There needs to be more of that. I love a second encounter of Equilibrium for this same fact, because you can do it really fast if you know the mechanics and you learn how to do them well. The only thing that slows you down is waiting for enemies to walk through the doors, but regardless, if you know how to do the mechanics, you can do them really fast and get to damage faster. And it's rewarding when you're like, man, that was a minute and I'm back in damage. Okay, maybe more than a minute, but when you're flying, it's like a minute. It should be rewarding to do the game, or to do the content in the game well and fast. And there needs to be more activities. Time gating should not be a thing. Excuse me, not time gating. Health gating should not be a thing. Instead, make it so by completing mechanics faster, you can do more damage, or as you're progressively doing mechanics throughout the damage phase, you'd get more and more damage on the boss. Similar to how Gambit had the system of killing the envoys to damage the primeval better. Instead of just locking the primeval out completely, which I think is the worst decision they could have made with Gambit, but you should do more damage by completing the mechanics. So when you're doing it fast, you can get to damage and doing really good damage rather quickly. And then the other part of just enjoyable content is fun, goofy, or ridiculous content. I want to see 12-man raids be a thing, right? That was some of the most fun. But I also want to see it like 6-man escalation protocol or onslaught. Just make it chaotic. Just dump ads, dump bosses, go crazy with it. Do 12-man raids, 12-man dungeons. I don't care. Make it fun. I was also thinking, make events fun for these things, right? Holiday events. Let's talk Christmas, right? For the Dawning, the snowball events. There should be a 12-man escalation protocol with snowballs. Only snowballs. You just have stacks of snowballs. You just chuck them. I want to see fun stuff like that. But we don't, unfortunately. Like the last time we had something that was fun, it was goofy and weird, was Dares of Eternity. And it was only fun for the first like 10 times. But there was, some absurdity to it. There was some randomness. There was rewards for doing cool things in it, like the Infinite Heavy. I want to see more stuff like that. That's, again, tying into the meaningful rewards, but has just a certain joy to it, right? The content is just enjoyable, especially when you can get a group together. Like, 12-man Dares of Eternity would be insane. Again, just crank the ads dial up, crank mini-bosses up, create other little mechanics, little things that can kill the team or, buff the team, and then just have fun. Just, go crazy. Excision was a great example of this. I think the Excision mission was awesome. Unfortunately, the Grandmaster, you struggle to find people to do it, but I think it was a great attempt at doing something like that. But again, there should just be a 12-man playlist that's just chaos. Okay, moving on. Let's talk Power Fantasy, part 3 of this, of just reasons to play. Exotic weapons should feel great to use due to their rarity. The fact that there is little to no Power Fantasy in using exotics outside of a handful really bothers me. When you have guns like Teraba, which require doing Crown of Sorrows repeatedly, which was not an easy raid necessarily, especially with LFGs. LFGs were terrible when it came to Crown of Sorrows. But then you get a gun, and it just doesn't feel good. And there was no reason to use it for forever. And there was a little moment in time where there was a spike in popularity because of a couple of exotics or something. I don't even remember. And it's really good, but there's little to no use to it because you could just use a legendary SMG that will apply Scorch or do ignitions or heal you or whatever. There's just not that much of a point when there's better exotics, lightsaber, and the rest of the exotics are just thrown by the wayside. There should be, again, a Power Fantasy to every single exotic. When you throw one on, not only should it feel exotic, it should be rare as heck and hard to get, but you should toss it on and go, man, this is awesome. You should be excited to have it. I should throw Teraba on and go, holy cow, I'm so glad I did Crown of Sorrows. I don't know how many times, 13 times to get Teraba. It should feel good. And it should change the way you play. It should change your build. When you lean into it and have the ability to lean into it, you should be able to just tear stuff up. And I know that isn't balanced for PvP, but I don't care about PvP. It should just tear stuff up in PvE. That's just how exotics should feel. That's their Power Fantasy. It should change the way the game plays, fundamentally. The way you interact with the game. And it should feel overpowered when you put an exotic on. The fact that there are more legendaries that are game-breaking, fundamentally game-changing, overpowering than there are exotics is completely disrespectful. It is horrible. The fact that you have had rocket pulses, rocket sidearms, freaking area denial GLs, there have been so many guns, especially specials, that have fundamentally changed the landscape of the game and have for forever. They have not been turned into exotics. Why are they not exotic? I don't understand. But regardless, it should feel like that when you get an exotic. And now we're just throwing out exotics left and right and have since Undying, where you get them for just buying the season pass. And the ones in the season pass, 9 times out of 10 suck. Why are we just tossing them out? Those should be a legendary drop, That should be a curated legendary roll of something. Why is it an exotic? I don't know. But regardless, they should feel great. And they don't. When is the last time you saw someone using Tiku's Divination? Or Trespasser? Or Symmetry, or Ruinous Effigy, or you name it. There's so many that just people don't use. Black Talon, the sword from Duality that I got, Shadowheart. I've never used it. I've never had a reason to, because it sucks. There's so many of them that just are not worth using. Why does World Line Zero, after doing that quest, why does it not have Eager Edge? Why does it not lob you across the map? I will never know. Why is every other legendary sword with Eager Edge better than it? Anyways, I'm going on a tirade and I'm sorry. Okay. Classes should be able to lean way into their preferred roles. I like the class tree of Division 2, right? We have the 3 sets of trees where you can lean into the tech stuff, you can lean into tank, or you can lean into DPS. I want something similar. When you select your subclass or your class, you should have a subclass tree that just has a bunch of options, right? Where it's just transcendence, and I think LCV Gaming kind of demonstrated this, but you should have just a bunch of options where you can mix and match pieces you want with other pieces you want, but you should have a similar tree where if you want to lean into a tank build, you just start equipping all the stuff in the tank tree. If you want to equip DPS, you should have the DPS tree, so on and so forth. I think that's a great way of doing it, because then you can mix and match whatever you want, right? When you really start leaning into the build crafting. But for new players who just want to do one thing and do it really well, just start equipping all these things. Start unlocking them, start buffing them, right? That should be the standard, right? And there should be a bunch of options. Every class, Hunter, Titan, Warlock, should have one of these trees with multiple options, with multiple branches for DPS, support and healer, for tank, for a scout rogue build, for AoE ad clear, etc. Right? Like, that should just be the thing. Tank, part of it should be like, and I'm gonna go full D&D, Baldur's Gate 3 here. Part of it should be Paladin, like Paladin Cleric, where, I mean, you can just protect everybody. It should be super tanky, super, like, line of defense. But then the other part of it should be Barbarian. You should be able to do stupid damage when you're taking damage, right? When you're up close and personal, you should be able to wallop people and be buffed when you take damage, that sort of thing. Which, there's a couple items in the game that help with that, and like help damage in proximity, Synthoceps, but you should be able to lean way into it. Same thing, AoE ad clear. There's a lot of AoE builds, but you should just lean into that, right? As you chain damage between ads, it should proc subclass abilities. As you do more damage against ads and kill ads, it should pop off and do more, like Graviton Lance. You're like popping heads, and then the little seekers pop out and they kill everything around it. That should be your melee. That sort of thing. There should be the ability to lean way into your preferred role. I would love to lean way into a support and healer role, but it's just not worthwhile. And that means I'm on Well of Radiance, I am using Rifts with Boots of the Assembler, and I'm using Lumina. That's probably it. That, for the most part, that is support healer. That sucks. I'm not doing that. I don't want to be on Well. I want to be a support healer on Arc. I want to be a support healer on Strand. I want to be a support healer on, freaking Arc Titan would be awesome for that. I would love to be a healer Arc Titan. When I'm like punching people, it should heal people around me, like that sort of thing. You should be able to lean way into it. And that should be the power fantasy, is really being able to play the way you want, and have it worthwhile. Okay, make build crafting worthwhile, but give preloaded sets or loadouts for new players. This is kits from the vendors and a mission to teach the player how to use the kit, like the Strand training mission in Lightfall, where you're popping through the Vex simulation, whatever. But these kits should not only give you a full, like, preloaded subclass set, so it has everything ready to go. When you click, I want to be a tank on Hunter, it equips all of the things, sets it up for you, and then gives you either recommendations or an actual armor and weapon set along with it, so you can really lean into that. And this should be from the start. And I think as you're going throughout the campaign, like how it used to be with the Red War campaign, when you completed a planet, you would get like an exotic or something, but the vendor should give you like, hey, here's another preloaded set. And this is not like exotics. This should be like a legendary set. But here you go. Here's a legendary set to really lean into that. And, you know, the armor set bonus plays into whatever the build is. Like, so if it's a tank, the armor set bonus is you gain more damage resistance when you are taking damage from boss type enemies. Or, you know, you gain 20 plus DR when you are in close proximity to 3 or more enemies. That sort of thing. Take the tank set, right? You should be able to pick whichever one, it don't matter. But like preloaded sets from the vendors, so that way once you're done with the campaign you can have all the sets and you can really lean into whichever one you want. And you know, I don't really want to hold people's hands completely, but I think it would be a good idea to like, hey new players, here you go, here's something that's actually really good and you can use, and here's how to use it. Like the strand training mission where you get popped into a planetary mission that's just like, hey, use invisibility. Just go for it. Here's all the things. Here's little tips and pointers. Here's a gun that can help proc invisibility or something like that. That sort of thing. I would really, really like to see that. And again, well, I'll get into this later for the campaign stuff, probably in the 3rd episode of this series. But I want to see more of that. I want to see more power fantasy. And imagine being able to build craft the snot out of Transcendence. Have every perk, every aspect, every fragment, every ability, be able to do anything you want. No crossover between classes. Like, each class should be unique, but just do whatever you want on that one class. But also, for players who don't want to, like, dive headfirst into trying to min-max everything, just give them something decent that can help them hold their own in difficult content, so they can start their journey to acquiring better stuff, getting those exotics, getting the planetary exotics, right? Something like that. Okay, so I think that about rounds up my first episode of what I'd like to see for a Destiny 3, or maybe just a future of Destiny 2. If you enjoyed this, I don't really know what to do. Part of me wants to say, like, go share it with somebody, but it doesn't really matter, because it's just me spitballing. Secondly, this isn't normal on my channel, so, you know, if you do like it, cool. If not, don't expect too much more of it, other than there are probably 2 other episodes at some point, but, like, the biggest thing is, I'm just a guy talking about stuff and stuff I like. So if you connect, comment, tell me, you know, what would you change, what would you like to see, and if more people out there would just like come together and we people build their own game, you know, don't call it Destiny 3, but make it what Destiny 3 should be. What are things you want to see in it, and how would you help? Just stuff to think about. Anyways, I thank you so much for coming and listening and watching, and I hope you enjoyed. I will talk to y'all later. Goodbye, everybody.